Krishna from the Department of Economics, University of Allahabad. Sir is having around 40 years of teaching experience and his area of specialization are international economics, economic theory, Indian economic policy. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Annapurna ji. Shall I start?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The topic, yes?
Sir, you are audible, quite audible.
Would you like to say something?
No, nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So the topic that I wish to discuss today was about Atmanirbhar Bharat and international trade. The concept of Atmanirbhar, or you can say self-dependent economy, can be discussed in two different formats. One is we are thinking of a Robinson Crusoe kind of economics. In this kind of economics, that is Robinson Crusoe economics, there is a man in an island all alone, and he works for himself, produces everything, consumes everything, and so he is naturally self-dependent. He is Atmanirbhar. But are we talking such kind of Atmanirbharta, or we are going to discuss something else? For example, if we think in this term that India shall produce all the commodities that is required in our country, that is simply, if not impossible, very difficult. And it is almost impossible for nearly 100 countries who are very small. They cannot do it. Only maybe 5 to 10 large economies may survive, others may not even survive. So we are not talking about an economy which is like a Robinson Crusoe economy. We are discussing something like a Keynesian economy. And self-dependence in Keynesian economy simply says one thing. That is, whatever you produce, whatever is your output, you shall not consume more than that. Maybe for a shorter period of time, you can do that. That means for a year or two, you may consume more than what you produce. For the next years, you may produce more than you consume. That means your balance of trade shall almost be balanced. The exports must match imports. So what we are saying is that this kind of balance which we are talking of, self-dependence or independence, what you may call it, is probably more important, more likely than what Atmanirbhar Bharat we are talking of. We are talking of an Atmanirbhar Bharat where we would like to, basically every country would like to have, that it consumes all amount the producers are producing. That is, importers must earn equal to what the exporters are getting foreign exchange from. Now, the basic problem of all developing countries is that there is a structural disbalance. That means they generally consume more and produce less. Let's take an example of India. From 1951 to 2019, the period can roughly be divided into two parts. The first part is between 1950 to 1980, and the second part from 1990 to 2019, almost 30 years each. Why I am leaving this 10 years period out is because this was a transitional period. In the first phase, we were an inward looking economy. That means Indian producers should produce the commodities for the countrymen first. Let country be first. That all production shall be biased towards the consumption of national consumers. Exports were not given that much importance. And the resultant effect is also known to us. The resultant effect is that after first 30 years, in the first 5-year plan, we were having a balance of trade deficit of around 10 to 15 crores. By 1980, this rose to nearly 5,000 crores. By 1990, it rose to nearly 10,640 crores. That means every year we were exporting less, importing more. And we had to work on foreign debt, foreign capital and whatnot. Then we changed the economic perspective. We opted for a LPG economic reforms scheme. And what happened? I'm not blaming any government because in last 30 years, 18 years was a UPA government and 11 years was a NDA government. But what happened? In 1991, we had a deficit of 10,000 crores. In 2008, 2018, we had a deficit of 1,47,000 crores, almost 15 times that we had in 1991. At present, India is having a deficit of $200 billion a year. We are exporting goods worth $200, importing goods worth $500. Now that means we are always consuming more than what we are producing. That means we are dependent on foreign production. We are dependent on foreign money, foreign technology. Now this is not independence. So once we talk of Atmanirbharta, this situation should have been changed. But this has not changed. On the contrary, the planners give you that data which reveals nothing and probably hides everything. They will tell you that India has a foreign exchange reserve of nearly $463 billion, which has never been the case in the history of India. True. In that respect, let me take a comparison with China. At present, China is having a foreign exchange reserve of more than $3 trillion. That is $3,000 billion. And to tell you very frankly that this $3,000 billion has come down from around $4,050, $500 billion in 2018. Why it has come down? Because now China has started investing in other countries. It has started creating long-term investments which will give it benefit in future, say after 10 years, after 20 years. It is creating various kind of ports outside the country, roads outside the country, with a partnership of other countries, and with which it will gain much more. But India's foreign exchange reserves are not earned by the balance of trade exports. The balance of trade is not favorable for India for almost 40-50 years now. While China is facing a positive balance of trade for last 20-25 years. Now, if we compare India and China, because these are the two large countries having a population of 130 crore people and 140 crore people, if we compare them, what we find is that China's exports are much larger than India's exports. Take the comparison of India and China first. In 2019, India exported China goods worth $13 billion and imported goods worth $76 billion. That means there was a gap of nearly $60 billion from China. Now, this is not sustainable. This cannot be sustained. So, what is wrong with our system? If we want to become an independent state, self-dependent, then we have to promote the exports, or rather reduce the imports, or do something, whatever we can, that is in our hands. Because I personally feel is, you should try to basically strategize your own self. You try to take out your advantageous points. Don't think of others. Let me start with something different. If you want to promote exports, what are the methods? You know, you cannot produce and export any commodity to the world. Why can't you do that? Because only those commodities can be exported which are demanded from outside countries. For example, there is a surplus in rice production of India, but we cannot export all kind of rice. Only basmati rice is exported because foreign people demand it. So the first thing is, for promoting your exports, what you need to do is, you have to produce for export specifically. There are so many commodities which are demanded outside, and in which India can be much better. But still we are not able to do it because we do not have enough supplies. Our domestic demand is much greater, be it tea, be it coffee, be it any other commodity. So the first thing is, we are not producing for exports. We are producing for domestic production even after 30 years of liberalization period. That is why our exports are almost stagnant at around $300 billion. They are not increasing at all. Sometimes we do it 310, sometimes you go to 219, something like that. Now the second thing again that I would like to tell you is that it is not alone that you are important. You have to compete with various countries. That means if you want to export, for example, potato, your potato should be cheaper in price in comparison to other countries, as well as in quality also it shall be competitive. The price and quality comparisons are so important for exports. You have to always be an innovator and a leader to promote your exports. Now that basically is the problem that we should discuss in detail for a while before coming to other opportunities and challenges that we wish to discuss in a longer period of time. I would rather start from a different angle altogether, because our Yashasvi Pradhan Mantri ji has said, local pay vocal. He made a very good statement like this. I would also like to discuss this local pay vocal. Because we are discussing something in Kashi, Banaras, and for Kashi, I must remember one thing, that there is a huge, very famous person, Kabir. For Kabir, a very famous writer of Hindi wrote that he is dictator of language. He can do anything with language. He can rhyme anything with language. For example, if there is a Pahela, he will create a Sahela instead of Saheli. That means he can always change the language to suit these things. Similarly, vocal pe local seems like a very good rhyme. No, it's indeed very good. I don't want to challenge it. But actually, at least as far as I could understand, or I can think of, is that this kind of explanation that he gave did have a different meaning. We shall not go into this sentence as is written. There is a difference between, we can say, in letter and spirit. We do not want to say that we will be cut off from the world. If we are cut off from the world, that means we become Atmanirbhar on our own production. There will be a drastic reduction in consumption levels. Today, what we are consuming, just think of those things. Petrol, for example, we are not self-sufficient in production of petrol. All the transportation system at this point of time is based on petrol and diesel, which we import from other countries. So, what actually local pay vocal means is something different. We should prefer local commodities is one thing. But how can we prefer local commodities? This is question number 1 to everyone. What happens is, when you think like a consumer would always like to purchase a commodity which is cheap and qualitatively very good. That means he wants to buy the cheap and the best. It is not interested where it has been produced, in China, in Italy, in Korea, for example, any other country. It is not important for it. So, whenever a consumer decides what is to be consumed, it has to have a competitiveness with other countries, with other producers and something like that. The question is, why we are not able to compete with others? Our laborer gets the probably lowest wage around all the developing and developed countries. In agriculture, our wages are very, very low, almost nil, because our prices determined by the support prices are not basically the prices which include the wages of the laborers. We generally give a 10% margin to the labor, hardly in so many things, and the agricultural farmer has to face so many risks and so many uncertainties before him for this 10% profit level that you can just think of. So our wages are quite low. Then there is the problem. How can that be solved? I'm talking of the international trade only. Why I'm talking of international trade only? I'll tell you that it's not that our exports are stagnant from 2008 up to now, but have been declining from 2014 till date. And when the world trade was growing all over the world at a rate of 6% to 7% per annum, our exports were declining. Now that was a simple question that we have to answer. Moreover, what WTO has said? WTO has said that in post-COVID situation, the most optimistic approach tells us that there will be a 13% reduction in total world trade. And the pessimistic view says there can be 32% reduction in world trade. Now, when the world trade was growing, what we did? Our exports were decreasing. Now we have to face a completely different challenge. The trade is likely to decline. And in this, even to sustain to the level of exports that we have been doing, will become very difficult. Now, why these things have been happening in India? This is where we must analyze, think, and then discuss so many things. Let me start with China. because I would like to discuss the very concept local pay vocal. Why I am concentrating on that is because probably Pradhan Mantri ji said something different. He said that we should try to brand our products. Branding gives you a larger value. You can get a premium over price. You can have loyal customers if you brand a commodity. You know, the customers are loyal to particular brands. They don't change their brands even if the prices go up by 10% or even 15 to 20%. So this brand loyalty and brand premium is very important. And so India should create brands. Brands in every field. Naturally, we have various fields that I'll discuss one by one. But let me put a counter question to this. And the question is for everybody. Has you seen so many brands from China coming out? Think of cars. Which car do you think of? It's either Honda, Kia, Hyundai, Maruti. None of them is a Chinese brand. Think of mobile, iPhone, others. Again, there is no Chinese brand as such which is popular. Think of television sets, whether it is Sony, whatever it is, Sharp. They are all either Japanese or Italians or Western companies. Think of even clothing. You know, you buy Louis Vuitton, Lee. You also buy Peter England. What is this? None of them belongs to China. So there is no single brand. Now probably they are making some brands like Xiaomi and some others. But they were never branded their things. They never. What they did, they produced the inputs, assemblies, spare parts in so cheap that they could throw anything to the world. They became undisputed manufacturing factory of the world. Their manufacturing sector is 50%, while agriculture and services are hardly 50%. While in India, we have a 62% service sector and only 15% from agriculture and 15% from manufacturing. Now, this is where China did. They never thought of a brand. They started producing all kinds of ancillaries, whatever you can call them, and started supplying to the world. What the world did? World took this as an advantage for themselves, although they were working for China. What they did? Make in. For example, make in India. You buy many products, assemble it, give a name of India, and it will be produced and sold as an Indian commodity. So they started doing this everywhere. They had their ancillaries being supplied, their assemblies were supplied, their everything. They are supplying chemicals, plastics, what not. You just can't imagine in electronics, in electricals, in mechanicals, every kind of commodity is being manufactured in China, exported to other countries where they assemble and sell. So the world is assembly and the manufacturing is in China. They never created any brand name. You may have many brand names. You can have loyal customers, but where from you are getting these inputs of? Now that is the question that we need to think. I generally take up a step from Mashelkar Saab. He was a chairman of CSIR, and he said, किसी देश को बर्बाद करना हो तो इंडिया को उसके पीछे लगा दो. इंग्लैंड के पीछे हम लगे, इंग्लैंड खत्म हो गया. सोवियत रूस को हमने पीछा करना शुरू किया, सोवियत रूस डूब गया. फिर हम लोग अमेरिका के पीछे लग गए, अब अमेरिका डूब रहा है. हमको एक ही काम करना चाहिए कि अब हम चीन के पीछे लग जाएं. चीन डूब जाएगा, भले हमारा कोई कल्याण हो या ना हो. We do not know about that. At least we should start doing it. It's entirely different. Why our manufacturing is so weak despite startups? That is the basic question that we need to analyze, explain, research, and then start doing it. Rome was not built in a day. Even China couldn't make it in a day. China started opening up its economy in somewhere in late 70s. We did it in early 90s. 10, 15 years difference. But where is China today and where we are? Compare the per capita incomes, compare the per capita trade, per capita efficiency, whatever it is. Why can't we do that? Where do we lack? Are we not skilled? Are we not intelligent? Don't say that. We cannot say the whole of America is being run by India. You know, all the big companies, whether it is Google or something like that, they are being run by India. So if Indians are so intelligent, if they are so sharp, where is the problem? If the problem is of model, then we should change the model. If the problem is something different, we should do that. Now here I want to enter into a debate, and the debate is very simple. Where shall we start? Now, the previous speaker was speaking something about common agricultural policy. And what did he say? Just think, just read, just take it from his ideas. Do you know that Europe didn't produce anything in agriculture up to Second World War? America was the kitchen of Europe. Europe was hardly producing 30 to 40% needs of its food grains from its own country. They adopted a policy. The policy is known as Common Agricultural Policy. And this Common Agricultural Policy allowed their farmers to produce, you can say, mountains of butter, wheat, grains, and they are one of the largest exporting country today, largest. Even they have beaten the United States in this. What they did, they planned it, right? This is where I like to tell you that to get comparative advantage today is not like that doing it in the theory of comparative advantage of David Ricardo, who gave it his theory in 19th century or say early 19th century. The days have gone. Every country is moving towards comparative advantage by making strategic rules. What are they doing? Where the cars were produced, where the automobiles were there, it was in America. What did Japan do? It imported all kind of automobiles, changed them, researched them, created producing cheaper kind of vehicles, and started exporting to United States. They gained comparative advantage by reorganizing, restructuring, researching on this kind of industry. Now, this is what would have been done. What kind of innovations are we doing? Take so many examples. I generally talk with examples. From where the handicrafts came, India is one of the largest producers of cotton. And despite being the largest producer of cotton, and despite being the originator of what is called as charkha, we created one amber charkha that is very, very beautiful. But then Chinese imported this charkha from us. Then they modernized it. Then they started producing handicrafts better than us, cheaper than us. Because they kept on changing the design so that the production increases and increases and increases. You know the scale. Economy is very clear. Economics says produce at a large scale, the costs would go down. If you cannot produce at a large scale, the costs are going to be high. So why can't we think we are the biggest market almost after China and United States? We are the biggest market. So why our producers do not, I'm not talking in all sectors, I'm talking only in export sector. I do not want that large scale production shall be done in all the sectors. But when I started saying from the beginning, I say we shall have to keep certain resources fixed for exports. We should produce for exports. Just look at China, what they did. In their country, they have dragons and whatnot. They do not have Durga statues. They came to India, found that Indians are very fond of these kind of statues. They started working on it and they started exporting to India. They don't produce it for their sense. They produce it for us. They are producing so many things for the world, for different countries. They started thinking in 1980s and 90s how to become a supplier to the world. Why can't we think of a strategy in which we shall try to export these kind of commodities in which we certainly have better advantage in many fields? We do have, our ODOP products are doing like these things, but we have not done that. What we are doing is we are trying to export the surplus, which is not possible. This can never be done in long run. This is not possible. So when we are talking of adopting strategies, what European Union did, what Japan did, what China did is to be done here. But there is a difference. We cannot copy China. Be sure we are not able to copy China because price-wise competition with China at present, I don't think is possible. They are producing goods at throwaway prices. I just do not know how and why. We take examples of everything. We had very good torches and batteries and cells. Jeep unit of Allahabad was producing and exporting it to other countries. FAD did maintain for a while, but Jeep is now gone. And who has come up? The Novinos and other kind of Panasonics and other kind of battery cells and torches have come. Why? The innovation, or rather the thought that what people will like. This is where the management people should come up and find out. India should do researches in different places to find out what are the areas in which we can become or we can get strategic comparative advantage in future. I'm not saying that these migrants which are coming back to different states will have a great skill and start producing so many things. No, they can produce goods, they can be employed, the market can come back, we can have a W kind of recovery, or even a V or U kind of recovery. I'm not worried about that. But I am worried that if India doesn't start now thinking seriously about the exports, thinking about the independence in balance of trade, we are in for a very, very bad period. At present, just look at the exports that we have. We are exporting $62 to $65 billion of services, mainly the IT services produced by 4 or 5 groups, the Wipros and the Tatas and the Infosys and others. They are highly concentrated. Then we export certain gems and jewelry that is again highly concentrated in Surat and other places. Do you know that the total exports of all the SEZs of India are not equal to even one SEZ of China? We bring policies, no doubt, but when to implement? How to implement? The SEZ policy was made in 2005, yes. The act came in 2005. And there were 536 applicants. And in 2019, we have hardly 136 SEZs running. Out of them, 70% are running in 40 to 50% of their capacity, and the rest are almost not non-starters. We make a policy, no doubt about it, but we don't try to implement it in a manner we should. Announcements can be made, no doubt, but announcements have to be implemented. Now, this is a time where if we can even maintain our just I told you earlier also that I have to go to another one. So sorry, because I might be delayed. If you think I can speak for 5 more minutes, or if you allow, I'll just close it off. This is upon you.
Sir, you can take more 5 minutes.
4, 5. Okay, thank you very much. So what I am just saying is, we have to make a different kind of strategies for exports. Now, these strategies need to be backed by the policies and also by the government initiatives. I don't blame the government. They have been doing good things. I don't say that they are not making good policies. Indian economic foreign policy or foreign trade policy comes every year, and they are giving all kind of benefits to the exporters. I don't blame them. What I blame is that Indian producers are not thinking in terms of exporting commodities. They are thinking to take the advantage of the domestic market, because domestic market is quite large. You can produce for domestic markets. That means our planning, our policy, or everything changed in 1991. But has the mindset changed? Where our startups are working? Where does Make in India programs working? The government has given funds. The government has made a policy. The government is also giving certain other kind of benefits. I do agree that there are many hindrances, infrastructural bottlenecks, because we are producing, our producing districts or cities are very small. Hardly 10 or 15 cities of India produce nearly 70% of our manufactures. And the regions, large regions of Bundelkhand and Jharkhand and others, there is no industry as such. They are totally lacking all kind of industries. So naturally, we don't have a diversified area of export. We don't have a diversified list of exports. We don't have diversified products. Although the policy tells us to do this, but there are bottlenecks, and the bottlenecks are known to everybody. In Bundelkhand, the transportation, the electricity, the infrastructure is not that good as that is in Delhi. So naturally, everyone would like to concentrate in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and other places. So the need is first start thinking in the terms of diversifying regions of production and production for exports. You cannot rely on what has happened. You have to start afresh. And now, not even 100%. We have to have a 200% initiative to do these things. Because at this point of time, only those countries will sustain which in this period of post-pandemic period of 2 to 3, 4 years, if they can make it, if they can just do it, how can they do it? People are against China for so many reasons. The industries, the factories might move out of that, but that is not going to help. Do you know that FDI, which was going largest to China up to 2005, started moving towards India? Now in India, there is a large amount of FDI which is coming. But in which area? Generally, it is in foreign portfolio areas, not in foreign direct investment or in greenfield investments. So what we have to do is, we have to think. We do not get reliable data on so many things. But our managers, our social scientists, our economists have to think of diversifying. This diversification of production of product is a must before we enter into this competition with the rest of the world, because in Korea, Taiwan, India at present. So I must say I have to go, and otherwise I could have spoken a bit more on this topic. I'm sorry indeed, because I had already informed you that I have a program somewhere else. So sorry, but thank you for listening to me so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been
Allow me to